CBT News is expanding its reach like never before and is launching in over 70 million broadcasting households. Whether you have Roku, Apple TV, or a mobile device running on Android or iOS, you can now enjoy our engaging, in-depth interviews with dealers, automakers, trade associations, best-selling authors, motivational speakers, and so much more, whenever and wherever you are. Simply search CBT News in the App Store of your smart TV. Welcome to CBT News with Shyann Malone.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to CBT News. I'm Shyann Malone. On today's show, we are joined by Bill Wittenmeyer, Chief Sales Officer at Dealeron. But first, here's a look at today's top automotive industry stories. It was a solid year for Ford. The automotive company posted strong quarterly and full-year earnings for 2023. Even beating out analyst expectations as it set some pretty ambitious financial targets for the current year. Ford earned $43.2 billion in revenue from October through December, and that's roughly $3 billion more than anticipated. But even then, with that gain, it still recorded a net loss of $526 million. The company's total annual net profit equaled $4.33 billion, which is a major turnaround from the previous year's $2.15 billion loss. And looking ahead for 2024, Ford anticipates full-year earnings between $10 and $12 billion. Toyota announced plans to invest $1.3 billion to build a battery-powered SUV in Kentucky. And this comes shortly after posting strong hybrid sales numbers for the third quarter. The Japanese automaker said the three-row vehicle would launch between 2025 and 2026, but declined to offer details on pricing or range even. And even though it's growing, Toyota's fully electric lineup remains behind other car manufacturers. However, the company has achieved strong success through its hybrid offering. Sales increased 46% in Q3. South Korea petrochemicals manufacturer LG Chem has agreed to supply cathode materials to General Motors for use in EVs. The $18.6 billion contract will deliver roughly 500,000 tons of battery components to GM over the course of 10 years. The price tag of the agreement is roughly half of the company's 2022 revenue. LG Chem plans to build the material starting in 2026 at its upcoming Tennessee facility, which remains under construction at this point. And the results are in. Cars.com has announced its finalist and top pick for the best car of 2024. Now, the competition rates vehicles based on quality, innovation, and value, of course. Out of 10 contenders, 6 current year models made it to the final round. The Chevrolet Trax, Genesis electrified GV70, the Honda Accord, Hyundai Kona, Kia Seltos, and Toyota Grand Highlander. Due to its spacious interior, competitive pricing, and improved infotainment options, the Chevrolet Trax was named this year's ultimate winner. The SUV starting price ranges from $21,495 to just under $25,000, and that's roughly $2,700 to $6,500 lower than the 2023 model. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Bill Wittenmeyer, Chief Sales Officer at Dealeron. He's here to discuss the primary technological and economical factors influencing car buyer preferences today.
CBT News is expanding its reach like never before and is launching in over 70 million broadcasting households. Whether you have Roku, Apple TV, or a mobile device running on Android or iOS, you can now enjoy our engaging, in-depth interviews with dealers, automakers, trade associations, best-selling authors, motivational speakers, and so much more, whenever and wherever you are. Simply search CBT News in the App Store of your smart TV.
You're known as Billy the Kid, and you always write great blogs, and people ask you all the time at conventions that you're at, and just, hey, what's Billy thinking on a lot of these issues? And there's a lot to talk about between EVs and AI and so many other things that dealers are challenged with and faced with. So let's start in the beginning and talk to us a little bit about 2023. You know, if somebody said to you, what'd you think of that year? What were some of the trends that came out of it?
Yeah, you mentioned two big ones right out of the gate, of course, AI and EVs. And I'd like to state I was early on the EV kind of being a little bit of a hot air balloon.
You told us.
And and it's recorded. So it's interesting. I was fortunate enough to be in Europe in the fall, and I spoke to the top dealers in both Belgium and in Holland. And I spoke about EVs, and I gave a story. I'll be much briefer here, but I drive across the country twice a year to bring my dogs back and forth from the different houses.
Wow.
Well, I-90 from Seattle to Sioux Falls, South Dakota is 1,500 miles, and it's straight. You could literally fall asleep and wake up, and you're still going.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
I saw 3 EVs on 1,500 miles. And so I told this story to this group of dealers in Europe, and I said, I'm going to tell you something. I said, it's not happening. It's not there. I said, true electric vehicles have a really big hill to climb in the United States. And a great example of that is this road trip. You couldn't find a charging station. There's absolutely no infrastructure. And the 3 that I saw were really around Bozeman, Montana, because it's a major place. Right. Other than that, it's just not there. And you would have thought those dealers thought I had a horn grown out of my head, because they're a little bit further down the road in terms of their infrastructure.
Sure.
So I think we're going to see the hybrids are going to continue to grow. That has a market. I think the EVs, we've already seen the pullback from the manufacturers. We've seen the inventories on the lots already increase, even with the tax credits and the government trying to push that agenda. It's really tough.
It is.
We're just not there. This country is so big, we can't compare it to the Netherlands, and we can't compare it to Belgium. You're up an hour or 2 from each country there. It's a little bit different. So it's going to be interesting to see that long term.
Yeah. They say the average consumer drives a car less than 50 miles a day. Not everybody's driving that 1,500-mile stretch that you are. Is there some validity in the fact that this might be better, AVs might be better suited for in-town traffic, and if you're living in Atlanta
100%.
or outside of New York? Or...
I think they call it distance anxiety, and going much further than that, because even on a lot of the cars that say, hey, it has a 300-mile range or whatever it is, when you're going at different speeds or different traffic, you could see that drop to half that, into your trip. So it's really difficult to plan around that. And it's back to the infrastructure. We just don't have the infrastructure here currently, and it's going to take a long time for us to get there. Again, interestingly enough, in Europe, every rest stop, which is about every 20 miles or so, had charging stations, solar charging stations. You just don't see that here.
Yeah, we don't get
really
that.
tough.
Do you think it's a complete infrastructure play right now? If the infrastructure were there today,
I think so. I think there's enough interest from consumers. I think people have a want to be a part of that. There's a little bit of popularity too, and being a part of that. But it really, once you get it, you find that it's really, really tough to maintain that and sustain it in any way from a longevity standpoint, right? Again, around town, probably can do that. But if you're looking at doing any type of travel outside the city, I think that distance anxiety comes back, and having a plan around it. And then, we've seen in the last couple of weeks, the freezing temperatures and how that affected charging stations and the battery stuff too. I think there's a lot that we still don't know yet that we've got to kind of wrap our heads around. And I think people feel a lot better with the hybrid model, where they can still have that backup of being able to get some fuel if they need it.
And be sure to watch this full interview right here at cbtnews.com. That does wrap up our show for today, but we do invite you right back here tomorrow morning on cbtnews.com. And remember, you can always stay up to date with the most recent news and trends influencing the retail automotive industry by following us on TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, and X, formerly known as Twitter. I'm Shyann Malone. That does it for us. Thanks so much for watching. You have a good one.
CBT News, your #1 resource for auto industry news and content. CBT News is expanding its reach like never before and is launching in over 70 million broadcasting households. Whether you have Roku, Apple TV, or a mobile device running on Android or iOS, you can now enjoy our engaging, in-depth interviews with dealers, automakers, trade associations, best-selling authors, motivational speakers, and so much more, whenever and wherever you are. Simply search CBT News in the App Store of your smart TV